have such sights to show you. We're Poppin the Scary horror podcast, and happy Halloween to all you folks out there. I'm your host, Coale, and with me, as always, I got my good friend and co-host, Aaron. So, this episode's coming out on Halloween and stuff, and we're recording this ahead of time just to make sure we can get the episode out. So, are you planning anything for Halloween specifically this year?
Oh, man. Lately, especially with, global pandemics and stuff, my Halloween plans have been fairly last minute. Most of my Halloween plans are work-related right now. It's like, what's my office doing for Halloween? But, I'm bound to do something. I'm a little later than usual. Usually I have my costume figured out by now. I still don't. So I'll probably be putting something together last minute.
Yeah, me too. I've been wavering on the whole, costume thing and stuff. I'm probably going to recycle some old costumes, but then it's like, with other events going on, I'm like, well, I can't wear that costume I wore it, a while ago and stuff. So, yeah, I'm going to need to still work on that, but really for Halloween night itself, I'm probably going to try to aim just to relax, since it's going to be on a Sunday, and take it easy, and, hand out candies to trick-or-treaters and stuff. I already got a lot of the decorations set out in the yard and stuff.
Yeah, when I rolled up today, it was, it's looking nice.
Oh, thank you.
It's looking spooky around here.
Yeah, no, one of the perks of being a homeowner and stuff is just being able to decorate your front lawn and stuff.
It's the American dream, being a homeowner so you can scare passing by children.
Yeah, especially all thanks to the world of real estate. And speaking of real estate, that's an awkward segue. That's very niche if you don't know about the movie, but this movie we're watching today is Halloween. And the reason why I say real estate is that Laurie Strode's dad in the movie is a real estate agent. So that was my way of diving into the film and stuff to try to make it a smooth segue, but it was a bumpy segue overall, I'd probably say. So, before diving in, I want to hear from you, because I know, this is one of the films that you've honestly seemed to be pretty excited about watching.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I probably don't know actually anything about it, but I think I do. Halloween. That's the one with the theme that's like, right?
Yep, you're right on the money there.
All right.
No misconceptions there so far.
All right. Two things that I need to confirm. Number 2 here. It's got Jamie Lee Curtis in it, right?
Yeah, that's
as a youngin'.
Yeah,
that's what I'm most excited about, because as a millennial, I know Jamie Lee Curtis mostly from Freaky Friday and Yoplait commercials. And so imagining a hot young Jamie Lee Curtis is going to make me feel weird. So I'm excited to dive into that. And never watch Yoplait commercials the same ever again.
I think it was actually Activia, wasn't it?
Was it Activia?
I think it was Activia, because she just talked about how skinny she was due to it and not having intestinal problems.
Yogurt, yes. Yeah, yogurt commercials.
Definitely yogurt commercial either way.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. And then this is the one with Michael Myers, right?
Yep, man, you're 3 for 3 so far. You're knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, so this is one of those movies that's obviously it's a big pop culture phenomenon. And it's one of those that I've been meaning to watch, but I just never watched.
It's one of those things that, with me and the history I had with Halloween, again, because I told you I kind of knew more about Freddy and Jason. That was kind of my gateway entry into horror when I was young. Michael Myers was always kind of that. Weird sort of a character I was never sure how to feel. And the first time I saw it was on television and stuff. I think it might have been on the AMC channel, something like that, but it definitely doesn't have the same impact as the unrated film does, basically where they didn't have to edit it for TV and stuff. But I don't know, it's one of those weird things. I've seen it about a couple of times and stuff. And while I know a lot of people really like the film a ton and stuff, it's never been one of those things that I've been like super duper like, oh man, Michael Myers. It's like one of those things that I'll mention some of my favorite slashers and then he falls in. So I'll be curious because, with a lot of films, the more you watch it and stuff, the more you pick up on little stuff. So I'm kind of curious how it's going to be watching this film for, I mean, if we're being technical, maybe fourth, third, fifth time, something like that for me and stuff. But I am excited for you to watch it and stuff because, again, it is just one of the all-time acclaimed films and stuff. Sure. And, basically one of John Carpenter's like breakout films, as well as Jamie Lee Curtis's breakout roles and stuff, which deemed her as one of the scream queens and stuff.
Lots of screaming.
For sure. Do you have any preconceived notions or anything going into this movie at all, specifically, Aaron?
I mean, okay, so this is where I'm just like maybe piecing together flawed memories. This is like set in like a neighborhood, right?
Yeah,
it's
kind
like a house, It's not like everything else we've watched so far has been like spooky remote place, you know what I mean? I guess Hellraiser not. But
yeah.
Most of what we watched, I guess, have been like, you're out in the middle of nowhere, you're stranded. But this is like Michael Myers like breaking and entering, killing people, right? Pretty much?
Yeah, pretty much. It stays pretty suburban and stuff when it comes to the setting.
That's so much more spooky for me. This might be one of the ones that actually like, because so far I haven't like been going to bed with nightmares, you know what I mean? But the ones that are set like, oh yeah, this can happen to you right now.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that get me. And the more psychological ones, I don't know how psychological this is, but like, I don't if it is, those are the ones that get to me.
Yeah, for sure. I'll definitely be curious to see on what your thoughts are about this film, and for me to see if I like have any sort of grand revelations and stuff, because it's like one of those things that I remember still liking Halloween, but it's one of those things that it's not like, oh my gosh, all-time favorite. So I'll probably have to dive more into it and stuff. Like I said, I'm trying to dance around it as we talk currently.
Right.
And stuff. So we're going to go check out Halloween here real quick, folks. And we'll be back in just a wee moment like this. Okay, folks, we just got back watching John Carpenter's classic film, 1978's Halloween. And Aaron, how do you feel coming from this film?
I came? Is that how do I feel coming from?
I mean, I know it's called Poppin the Scary, but
we're a lot of boobies, so I guess it's possible.
Yeah, 2 sets.
3. No, there were 3.
Yeah, 3?
I counted because in the very beginning, it's his mommy's boobies.
Well, it's actually his sister.
It's his sister?
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. Well, it's the adult Myers boobies. And then it's the what's her name, the trashy friend's boobies. And then it's the boobies, the gal that comes back with the big glasses guy. 3 boobies. 3 sets of boobies for 6 total.
Oh yeah, there was.
That's the important. Now that we got the important discussion out of the way.
Yes, exactly. The boob count.
Yeah. I mean, I was a little underwhelmed overall. I think you were a little bit on the money whenever you were talking about just how it's not like that amazing of a movie.
I think it just suffers from being an overhyped film, in my opinion, which sucks type deal, because like I can understand why people get overhyped about it, but at the same time, it never just ever reached that level for me personally.
It's a real... There's not a lot of plot there. Like, there's the main plot they establish in the beginning, and that's the interesting part that I think people probably like, and that's the, he breaks out of the mental asylum or whatever, and now they're on the hunt for him.
Exactly.
But that's only like a third of the movie, and the rest of the movie is just like, babysitting kids. You know? Like, there's no plot there.
Well, it's funny, because whenever John Carpenter, I think, they were, like, approaching the film to do this, I think the movie was supposed to be called, like, The Babysitter Murders.
Oh, really?
Okay, speaking of which, my cat is trying to reach underneath the door here. It does look like a horror scene. There's just a hand,
Like in the beginning of the movie when Michael Myers reaches his hand over the top of the car.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so I probably don't have to get a synopsis, but I will for those that for some reason haven't seen the movie. With Halloween, the story focuses on our protagonist, Laurie Strode and stuff, who's just like an average high school student. However, she's having to go through her life at the same time as a mental patient. Michael Myers breaks from the asylum and is being pursued by Dr. Loomis, who was his doctor at the asylum. And like you mentioned, there's not really like a lot of narrative going forward. It's just mostly like, hey, there's a killer on the loose. Let's see what happens. It's kind of like watching just dominoes knock over.
Yeah.
Like everything's set up, but we're just spent kind of watching one piece fall after another.
And there's a lot of waiting, for the inevitable when you're watching a horror movie. You're waiting for people to get killed. And the movie does a lot of, blue balling you a little bit. They do some spooky stuff, and you know the moment's coming, and the movie knows the moment's coming, so they delay some of that. But at the same time, that just means that you're sitting there watching nothing happen for a lot of the movie.
Yeah,
you're watching people getting babysat and phone calls about who they're taking to the dance. Spoiler alert: the dance doesn't happen because that's not the time frame that this movie takes place in. But you get a lot of details about it regardless.
I'm just laughing so hard because it's never struck me. Like, I've heard people talk about this film time and time again, and never once have they brought up the dance. So just the fact that was
that's what the most of the plot was about these girls' lives, right? Because the core plot, the plot that runs through it, of course, is about Michael Myers, and they're chasing him down, they're trying to find him. But those scenes are so short compared to the scenes that they try to build suspense in with the girls babysitting and being at school and things, and that plot is far less interesting. It's more of a vehicle for the suspense. And yet, I'm still sitting here, paying attention to the dialogue and being like, man, what's her name really should tell that boy that Laurie didn't say that after all.
Oh, yeah. I think it was Laurie's friend Annie talked to Ben Tramer.
It's Ben Tramer. He's cute.
I don't think we ever saw the movie, did we?
No, but that's what she said when they were in the car.
Ah, gotcha.
And Laurie was like, I'd rather take Ben Tramer to the dance. And then he was like, Ben Tramer? And he was like, oh, he's cute. She's like, shut up. That's most of the details I got out of the movie, because that's most of the script, I think.
For sure. No, it's just a funny point that was one of the focal points. And for me, I never really paid attention to. It's just, again, I just feel in my mind, it's just like, okay, it's just dialogue that basically gets us to the next scene, which I think that's one of the things that I never was able to really grasp onto the hype about and stuff with Halloween is, obviously whenever it comes to those movies, you have to pay stuff, it can't be just pure action 100%.
Oh, of course.
But the thing is the waiting is, sometimes it is kind of like, okay, we get it,
right,
type deal, and it feels like it goes pretty slow. And not to say slow burns aren't good, because there's several scenes where I think some of the best scenes is just where the music just kind of carries the film, and you just see Laurie walking through the neighborhood and stuff, and you just feel uneasy watching it, even though you don't even see Michael on the screen,
right,
and stuff. So it's not to say we don't like stuff that's slow and stuff, but it's just with the characters' dialogue, I just never felt that invested about it.
Right. They had to invent a subplot so that they could have the main plot vehicle go forward. But yeah, the problem was they didn't make the subplot very interesting. It was about dances and a school bully, and it was kind of just fragmented and all over the place, which is how real life is. But when you're watching a narrative film, it wasn't that funny, and it doesn't help that the killer that you knew was the killer was present in most of those, a lot of those scenes. But it wasn't scary because it was in the middle of the day, and he's driving this goofy-looking car. And you pointed out it looked like a Mario Kart for serial killers. You know what I mean? It's just Michael Myers, following people around town, throwing bananas out of his car. You know, so it wasn't like that scary that he was there, but there was, the music definitely helped create that sense of unease. And there's scenes where he's there where he's not goofy and it's the middle of the day, like when he hides behind the bush and stuff, you know. So there's plenty of that as well. But I think the times when they don't do that successfully just makes it a little funny and also makes the pacing a lot slower.
No, for sure. And there's a lot of points I want to pick up there. One of that is with the music and stuff. In all honesty, probably out of the entirety of the film, the music is my favorite thing and stuff. It's just so good, and just I can listen to the entire soundtrack endlessly and stuff. It's simple but effective. And it was actually composed by John Carpenter and stuff, who's not really a composer. It was just one of those things, whenever he's tasked with making a movie, he's like, okay, I know a little composing. Let me just throw something together. So that music definitely, I think, is a major, major strong point for Halloween. Just nailing that aesthetic and overall tone. And whenever it comes to Michael in the daylight and driving that car, it's one of those things that it's been a while since I've watched it, and it just didn't really hit me about how goofy it is to see Michael Myers just driving this old car and stuff. And he's also great at driving. And he's been in an asylum for 15 years.
He's been there since he's a child. Yeah, he's never learned how to drive, they say.
Yeah, because he was like 8, I believe, because he's 23 whenever he breaks out and stuff. So just the fact that he's never driven before and drives flawlessly is very hysterical. And again, just him just slowly looking and stuff. And there was some moments like I know everyone loves the scene where he's like poking behind the hedge and stuff, but just the way it was done, it was just so goofy because he's just standing there.
And especially because the way this shot was framed, and I feel like this was the fatal flaw for a few different scenes that could have been a lot scarier. But the way the shot was framed was like they're just walking and then they're suddenly like 10 feet in front and they don't notice that there's this tall, menacing guy in a mask just staring them down, and then they're like, oh.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Annie doesn't see it, but Laurie does. And there was a man behind the bush. And, a lot of it's just kind of, it ends up being goofy when it could have been.
Yeah, for sure. And so, because I feel like the one strong scene Michael had whenever it came to stalking was in the bed sheets and stuff, which is one of the famous scenes there and stuff. And that was in broad daylight, but just the way it was done, it still built that sense of unease. So it can be done in daylight. It's just the fact that it was kind of goofy just seeing him, meander around a little bit. So yeah. And one thing I do have to mention, another thing that helps with the slower moments for me that kind of helps guide me through is the cinematography. I feel like is super on point. Like just the fact of like what they chose to shot and the setting with the colors and stuff.
Yeah, it felt very small town fall,
Yeah, so it was like one of my favorite things about the movie is just the cinematography that was done, which I made sure to look this up to give credit where credit's due, but D. Cundy and stuff. But that film, like, it's something I can leave on in the background. Like every frame I do feel like is framed perfectly, and I feel like every still shot is like something I could print out. It's kind of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, just a little different as opposed to the grittiness of Texas Chainsaw. Yeah. This is more of like a kind of cooler, more relaxed environment. Because again, it's like in suburbia, basically, with the green lawns and stuff, but like the whitish blues and the orange from the pumpkins. So I felt like the film was really nice to look at a majority of the time and stuff, which definitely helped out because otherwise it would be even harder to kind of sit through the slower moments and stuff because
they definitely picked up on, and this is sort of a trope I've seen in these last few movies, is that sort of voyeuristic cinematography too, where the camera becomes Michael Myers. You see that in the very opening scene too, where they're peeping through the windows at all the things that are happening. There's a lot of window peeping, both by the characters and by the camera. So I think that was, that's a strength of that cinema. It makes it feel uneasy to like switch to be the killer's point of view there and that kind of thing. So
which it's funny because there's a misconception about the movie where people say that POV shot where it comes from the killer's view
Mm-hmm.
came from Halloween, but it's actually been done times before and stuff in movies like Black Christmas, which was years before that, which is a film we may probably tackle on later. But then another one is Psycho and stuff. So have you seen Psycho? I feel like I've asked this question
I've seen
before.
it a couple times, but
Okay.
it's been so long that I couldn't remember like specific shots.
But yeah, so that's like also another one. So they didn't quite invent the trope, but I feel like they perfected the trope and stuff of the POV.
They employed it well. Yeah.
Because, like I said, I mean, every shot is like, I never felt like there was a poorly framed shot. I know we came from like watching Evil Dead, which is a lot more kind of guerrilla style shooting and stuff, which again, being one of Sam Raimi's like earliest films and stuff. Like they're just basically young guys going at it. So with this, it felt like more composed, and I felt like, again, like they knew what they were doing with the camera and wanted to achieve, and quite effectively, might I add, just delivering all those scenes and stuff, because it is an enjoyable movie to watch, even if there's not a lot going on in the scenes that's got you gripped in. It's just something nice to look at. So another point I'd probably jump over to is probably some of the characters, dive into those and stuff. And so as you mentioned before, Jamie Lee Curtis, I know you were also really excited to see her in this movie and stuff. And I believe, we had the yogurt debate and stuff.
Let's settle it once and for all. You're probably right. It's probably Activia. But,
all right. Curtis.
Yogurt.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Activia again.
Yep, it's Activia.
You're so right.
Man, a broken clock's right twice a day. Am I right?
Accidentally gave YoPlay some
it's
sponsor deal here.
No.
Incorrectly attributed that.
Oh, trust me. This probably isn't the first time something like that happened. Like I said, I know with Evil Dead, I was thinking it was a college film when it was just actually one of their first films they made as a studio. So, it evens out.
Fact checking.
Yeah, I know. Show me the movie facts.
I know. Screen facts right now.
Yeah, screen facts. But Jamie
Lee Curtis. Yeah. Weird seeing her without short gray hair. That's all I got. I didn't get... disappointed that of all the boobies in that film, there's no Jamie Lee Curtis boobies. So, what's the point of even putting it in the DVD player?
Oh my god. I mean, you got 3 sets, not too bad. And plus,
it is the highest booby count yet of our podcast.
I mean, and Laurie Strode is kind of like more of the stick in the mud, which is probably why I was able to relate with her better, because I feel like I'm kind of the stick in the mud when it comes to groups, because her friends are not very good people.
No, they're not great. And and this is another common theme I'm picking up on with horror movie stuff. It's a pretty common trope, but it's really like, it's a moralistic kind of plot. You have a moralistic kind of killer where the people that are off doing sex and things are the ones that die. And then Jamie Lee Curtis, the goody two-shoes taking care of kids, is the one that, is the main character of the film. Yeah. So it's... there's sort of that moralistic strain that's not uncommon in horror movies. I don't know where it started, but it's like, if you're doing bad things happen to you.
Yeah.
Don't have sex. Don't take your boobies out, because that's when you're going to die.
Oh, man. It's actually funny, because that was actually going to be a point I was going to discuss with you later on, because as we go into these other films, there's actually quite a bit of interesting back history that I know of for that, but that's just to be continued kind of moment. But no, it's definitely one of those things that we have looked at each of the survivors and each of the films and stuff, and it's like with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, despite me liking the group, they did a lot of stuff that made them kind of jerkwads and stuff. And then with Hellraiser and Evil Dead, it was, fairly fine groups and stuff. There'd be like a couple of schmucks in each one, but it was pretty together. But this one, I definitely feel like we went back and stuff. Because again, I feel like aside from Laurie Strode, I feel like the others are just typical uncouth teenagers running around.
It doesn't help that the dialogue wasn't the strongest in the film, you know what I mean? So you get these really weird, just I don't know, just exchanges of them bullying Lori, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, why is she hanging out with him? Like, I understand that's like kind of like the same thing we thought of with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, whenever they kind of just gave Franklin the boot and stuff.
But Franklin deserved it.
Yeah, but that's exactly it. Like, you feel like it, but Lori is like the nicest person and seems to be good. And so again, it just makes me wonder, why does she even hang out with him? But that's a different thing for another day. But overall, I do feel like Lori is a strong protagonist to follow, and you do like her and stuff.
Yeah.
But you are right in the fact that it isn't like kind of like the boom character, because I know people are very passionate about Laurie Strode and stuff as a character.
Which is, I think it's a little weird to me, because I don't think she's an incredibly strong character. She's just, she's like a nice gal. That's like it. You know what I mean? She doesn't have like a really super bold personality of any kind, but she is a nice anchor to be like the moral center of a movie about bad people.
And for sure, and you want to see her survive and stuff, and I feel like whenever she is confronted with something, she does try her best to survive and try to help those out that need it and stuff. But I know that's kind of dancing more into spoilery territory, but overall, like I said, I think again, it just falls into I think Jamie Lee Curtis was amazing as Lori, but it's not like the boom, greatest, final girl of all time.
No, for sure.
In any sense. But one interesting thing about it, I don't know if you know this about Jamie Lee Curtis, but allegedly one of the reasons she was chosen in this role is the fact that her mom played Janet Leigh in Psycho. So her mom was the gal in a shower scene and whatnot. So that was one of the ideas where, that's why she was chosen for this role. So that's just another interesting tidbit there.
Trivia.
Yeah. And so I guess we should go to the other protagonist that we spend quite a bit of time, played by Donald Pleasance, is Dr. Samuel Loomis.
Yeah.
And stuff. And it's one of those things that I think out of the two protagonists, I like him a little bit more, but I think he makes more irritating choices, if that makes sense.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like Donald Pleasance delivers like a strong role and stuff. Like he's hell-bent on trying to make sure Michael's locked up and never see the light of day again. But again, there is just some moments where you're like, what is going on?
Right. Yeah, he's definitely the bolder of the two personality types, and it's because he was given a mission that he's driven towards, you know what I mean? Whereas it's not really towards the end of the movie whenever Laurie discovers there is a killer at all, that she has a mission that she's driven towards. And whenever that comes up, I mean, she's excellent in driving home that mission, which of course is survival. But then the doctor the whole time has this strain of he knows Michael, he knows he's a bad guy, and he's trying to convince everybody he's a bad guy, for one, and for two, find him and keep him from killing people.
No, and I feel like out of all the characters, I feel like again, this also plays favor to the script in general, but I feel like Donald Pleasance has some of the best well-written lines that's delivered in his film. Like, again, talking about Michael, where he was like, I spent 8 years trying to reach him and help him, and then 7 years basically trying to keep him locked up.
Right.
So it's like moments of dialogue like that where it does keep you pulled in and stuff, which is great that the movie does. It just has those like little pull-ins that keep you connected, because otherwise I think I'd have a harder time watching this film and stuff. But another one of the moments that I really liked a ton is whenever he is in front of the Myers house and stuff, and the kids are coming up, and he just decides to troll them and just pull a prank.
He wants to keep the kids out of the house so they don't get knifed. And so he yells at them through the bushes. Hey kids, get your asses out of here.
That was amazing. That was such a good one. But so I feel like it is good for Halloween itself to have these two protagonists that we do shift focus on and stuff. And you do want to see them succeed, which is good.
Right, of course.
You are invested a little bit, even if it isn't a whole lot. So I think that definitely speaks a lot of volumes on the strength of this film, and I
Mhm.
can understand why people get so crazy about this film in general.
Sure.
And speaking of crazy, we should probably move over to the third point of view we typically see the movie from,
Mhm.
and that is from Michael Myers' perspective.
Mhm.
So, given the fact that really so far you've seen probably, I guess technically just two iconic killers and stuff, that being
Mhm.
Leatherface and Pinhead.
Mhm.
And so far with Michael's debut, how does he rank from you specifically?
I like Michael a lot. I feel like it'd be hard to make too many comments about him before getting into spoiler
Yeah,
territory.
I guess we could just keep it light just on
So yeah, I'll hit
appearance.
you with the coming soon for the rest of my thoughts. But
Yeah.
just initial Michael thoughts. Yeah, I really like him. He's tall. He's intimidating. He's got a great like costume design.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a big knife. That's all you need, man. That's
Yeah.
It seems like he's all over the place, but he's also very realistic and human in many parts of the movie. So
Yeah. One of the things that I've always like thought was kind of like about Michael is just the fact that the one thing that personifies him is the fact that people say he is like pure evil. Like that's what
Mhm.
drives him, is that he is just the essence of evil. And
Mhm.
really that's all they ever really give him and stuff in the
Mhm.
film and stuff. So I always thought that was kind of like a more like type deal, because
Yeah.
with Leatherface, like again, like I've told you, it's just the fact you saw kind of like the humanity and you saw the gears think with Leatherface. So that's
Right.
why I thought he was a more interesting character. And with
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
and with Pinhead, you feel like he did follow like a code of sorts and stuff and had
Right.
his whole belief and everything. So
Right.
I think it's just those intricacies that made it interesting.
Mhm.
But with Michael, it's just like he's just always been pure evil. No
Well,
explanation.
yeah, and that's so. I think something that's hard about killers like Michael is that they don't talk. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Leatherface doesn't either, and so you only get attributes about their character in two ways. One is like in the beginning when they show you Michael's first kill or whatever,
Mhm.
and what caused it, with the motivation behind it, right? So they either show you from their perspective, or, and this is a little bit weaker, but it's the majority of the film, is when other characters talk about them. You know what I mean? This is so you don't see it necessarily from Michael. There's not Michael walking around giving monologues about,
Yeah.
I want to kill because,
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
So like that makes it a little weaker. But I do think it's interesting to see, yeah, Michael's like pure evil, but he's not motivated to kill people just because he wants to kill people.
Mhm.
He's definitely going after women that are sleeping with people, just
Yeah.
like he originally killed his sister, you know.
Yeah.
So like he has a target in mind.
Yeah.
He feels slighted or traumatized by
Yeah.
something in mind, and that's definitely who he's attacking.
Yeah.
You know.
Which I think that is another interesting point. I think because, again, I feel like with the spoiler things, it's like I always like to do it just in case nobody has seen it. But I think that's something we could definitely dive into more whenever it comes to his victims and who they were and stuff, and just trying to dive into the mentality of Michael Myers.
Right.
But I mean, overall, it is still like a strong design point. Like I told you, the mask he wears is Captain Kirk's and stuff. Did I tell you about that?
Mm-mm.
Oh, I thought I did
might have.
on the Austin trip there.
My memory is like 2 synapses buried in a deep closet in the back of my brain.
Oh, you're
so
good.
I don't remember things.
So yeah, the interesting thing about the Michael Myers mask is that it's actually a mask of Captain Kirk from Star Trek. They just ripped the eyebrow hairs and the sideburns out and just painted it white.
I do remember you talking about this.
Yeah, but I learned something new. The overall cost for the mask was $2.
Wow. Hey,
Yeah.
on a budget.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things also that's impressive to think about is whenever it came to the overall reception that it got, I'm trying to remember how much money it made specifically, but it made a ton of money.
Really?
Like loads of money. Not as much as Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it was quite a bit, which is kind of sad because Halloween did get quite a lot of money, and even though Texas Chainsaw Massacre got more money because it was owned by the mafia, Toby Hooper never got a lot of that money, period. I'm trying to figure out. I keep finding the remake, the 2018 one. Maybe if I type in 1978, there we go. The overall budget was between 300 and 325,000. Box office was 60 to 70 million.
So and that's 70s too. So that's wow.
No, it made bank for sure and stuff. So just the fact that they did take like moments to really like lessen the cost, again, I think really helped out in general with that. And so, and I never felt like it was like shot on a cheap budget and stuff. I just felt like it was shot exactly as it would be if you were in suburbia, kind of, in Haddonfield, Illinois, and stuff, wandering around. But yeah, was there any other points we could touch on or discuss before getting into the spoileriness of Halloween? Oh, I will say one thing while you're kind of looking through your notes. Sure. I do feel like out of any horror film, it has one of the strongest openings. It's simple but really effective, just with the music like the and it just has like that Halloween orange. Like, that's the best way I could describe it, just popping up the letters and then you see the jack-o'-lantern on the side. Like, that just definitely just puts you in the mood right there and stuff. So like, even though I'm not like super duper crazy about the film, it definitely gets me hyped for it.
Sure. Yeah, it's richly thematic, Halloween night, there's a killer. Come on. Yeah. That's a Halloween movie right there.
Did you find any notes you needed to touch on?
No, I think we should dive right in.
Okay, and before doing so, I guess before we dive into spoilers, for people for some reason who have not seen Halloween, what would you rate this film overall on our usual scale of 1 to 10?
On our usual scale of 1 to 10, keep in mind, I've got the hard-ass scale, because I need you guys to appreciate the 10s and really feel the sorrow of the 1s, right? So on my hard-ass, honestly, this is like a 4.
Whoa!
Yeah.
This
is like a 4.
Oh my god, my dude. I think that's the lowest one so far.
Is shit. The pacing is slow.
Oh my god, I was sweating with my rating.
No, and I like to preface with everybody that this is my movie critic hat on rating. If I had to give it something, yeah, it's a 4. There are good shots. There are like memorable exchanges. Michael Myers is a great character. Jamie Lee Curtis does her role well with what she's given, but the pacing's slow. The plot, the main plot that you have to focus on for most of the movie is non-existent. It's a lot of it. There's a lot of cheap, like there's some shaky shots. There's some terrible exchanges. There's some questionable motivations. There's some giant plot holes in a couple parts. That all of which are just like, yeah, I gotta give it a 4 out of 10.
Whoa, man, I'm not gonna lie. Whenever I planned on doing this episode, I knew I wasn't going to be like hailing it, to the highest extent. So I was worried about drawing fire. I'm so glad you are taking the bullets for me today, bud.
I'm happy to be the guy that people hate here, I guess. If you're a giant Halloween fan, I get it. I'm a fan of a lot of things that are not great. This movie is not above average for me. It's close to average.
Yeah. Whoo! Man, that is... Woo! All right. Well, I guess I'm going to mention my rating and stuff. Yeah, no, trust me, because I get it. I get exactly where you're coming from with it. I think the one saving grace is, again, the things I like about this film, I really like a ton. Again, like that music and the shots just looking visually pleasing and stuff. And it's literally something I could throw on during Halloween and stuff. But again, I definitely agree with your points about how slow the pacing can be and stuff. And it can just be a little bit of a slog. Because that's the other thing, too, is the fact that there are so many great scenes for me in this movie. but it's like, I want to see the scene already, but it's taking forever to get there.
So long, yeah.
So I think that's another thing for me, which I guess it's just kind of like, it's a good, bad thing, I guess, because I feel like with a movie, you can have favorite moments and stuff like that, but I at least want the journey to those moments to still be enjoyable. But I did start to get withdrawn a little bit. But again, it's just like, fairly strong characters, and again, just music and visually, it's gorgeous. For me, it's very much a 7 out of 10 for me. It's like one of those things that I can appreciate a lot about it, but I can't honestly say like, oh my gosh, I love Halloween and stuff. It's like that weird middling range of like, I like it. I'll probably watch it a couple of more times and stuff. But again, I don't think I can ever obtain the level of hype people have for this movie. I just feel like, whenever they put it in the 9s and 10s, I just can't in good conscience do that. So it's one of those things that it puts me in the mood for Halloween. Like I said, while watching it, it did make me feel just happy. Like, all right, it's my favorite time of year.
Right.
And stuff. So
my personal enjoyment of it was fine. I would watch it again next Halloween. I wouldn't watch it again in a couple months. I don't think I could sit through it.
Oh, for sure. I'm getting out of the way of this one.
just because it's like what you said. It would be like, okay, here's a good example. I love Star Wars Episode 6. Star Wars Episode 6 is a movie I can only watch once every 3 or 4 years whenever I forget about how awful the first 30 minutes are. Oh my gosh, yes. Where you're sitting through... Because, like, in my child memory of that movie, it's like, oh, yeah, he starts on the boat, he does the backflip, R2-D2 throws him the lightsaber, Boba Fett dies. All that happens in the first 5 minutes. When you rewatch that movie, it takes, like, 45 minutes to get to that part. It's like, this is awful. Oh, this is so bad. So, like, again, okay, that's what I mean when I say I couldn't rewatch this again, because, like, yeah, I love Star Wars Episode 6. I can't watch it that night. It's not that great of a movie. It's the weakest of the original trilogy. Hot take, I guess. No,
I'm with you there. I agree. It's probably. Well, I would say my least favorite, but then they came out with Episode 9, so...
Oh, yeah, if we're factoring in all the other movies outside of the original trilogy, like, it gets boosted by default. Yeah. But back to Halloween. All that is to say is, like, I personally enjoyed it. It's just, like, from my objective brain's point of view, not that great of a movie.
No, understandable. Like I said, I was just surprised and stuff, because like I said... I was kind of expecting you to be like, oh, I like it, and it'd be like, right. But no, you just ran with that. You took the torch I lit and ran.
4 out of 10's not that bad, okay?
No.
5 is average. 5 is average.
No,
4 out of 10,
for sure.
Just slightly below average.
No, for sure. But definitely, if you haven't watched this movie, it's a great movie to watch during Halloween. Really, whenever it comes to... nudity, like I said, you're going to see 3 sets, boom, 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 and then you're going to see a little bit of blood. It's not actually too gory, surprisingly,
it's not.
And stuff. So again, those of you that are kind of squeamish and stuff, it's kind of opposite of Evil Dead, which was gratuitous with the gore. Kind of more goes back to Texas Chainsaw Massacre
it's more
level
about
of gore.
The suspense than it is
exactly.
The actual, kill.
So definitely check it out. I know it's on Shudder. Maybe it's on Amazon Prime. I think I saw it a while back on there. But if you have a way to watch it, definitely do so. Like I said, I think it's a great flick just to throw on the TV Halloween while you're carving pumpkins or handing out candy. Sure. It's definitely like that level of a film. So we're gonna dive right into the spoiler territory. So now's your chance to jump off in case you haven't. Aaron, why don't you go ahead with the spoilerinos?
Spoilerinos? All right. Here's a minor one right away. Bam, bam, bam. There's a cop that's the main character, like a pretty prominent character in the movie, right? And yet the killer kills more dogs than the cop. What's up with that? No, seriously, why is he killing dogs so often?
So that's like one of the things I was wondering about it whenever it came to like choosing, because clearly he's not a killing machine killing everywhere, because he runs into like that one bully at the school and stuff and just grips onto him, then lets go and then stalks a little boy. It makes me question, because again, people compare Michael to like a shark and stuff that's thrown in the water and going towards everywhere. But again, it's not really determined exactly why he's focusing to people the way they are. Because again, the only ones that had a connection are the ones that were more scandalous teenagers.
And I think that's the common thread. I like the first for me that seemed fairly obvious. I guess just the dog thing was like
it was
found
just
a dog that he was like eating.
Yeah.
And then he killed that other dog, and I get why he killed the other dog because it was like barking and attacking him, and he's pure evil or whatever. So why not kill
but
the
it
dog?
is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's like okay, that's the one that threw me off. I totally get. I get why he killed Annie. I get why he killed his sister, and I get why he killed whatever that other girl's name is. It was like she reminded me of like Cindy Lou Who or something.
Linda.
Linda, yeah. I get why he killed them because the motivations between and why he killed that dude, Linda's boyfriend with the comically large glasses.
Bob.
Bob, yes. I get that because it all ties back to his original sin, you know. It ties back to, you know, he didn't like that guy, but that guy walked out the door before he could stab him, I guess. He already had the knife at that point. And so he went and he took revenge on, I guess, his sister. I totally thought that was his mom.
Yeah, but no, I only know that because his parents were outside. You know, they went out there like, Michael.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, that's who that was, because I was like, who are these two folks stopping by? That makes total sense. But yeah, so he obviously like had some sort of hatred towards his sister or whatever, and their, you know, sexual deeds that they were doing while he was around. And so like that then manifests later on when he breaks out because he's been in a mental asylum for 15 years or whatever, and so that's all he's had cooking on his mind. And so he goes after people that remind him of his kid sister and of you know, people doing those salacious deeds. And every time he kills somebody, they are either on their way to get fucking, or he's witnessed them take their boobies out. Like, that was that's how I knew Annie was going to die. Not just because it's obvious, but because he's standing out the window watching her, and she takes her boobies out. And I'm like, all right, that reminds Michael of his first kill, and he's going to go for it. You know?
Yeah, it's just kind of random because again, people that are fans of the series, and maybe it's from later films, which I haven't watched the entire series just yet and stuff, but they're just always like, oh, he has no reasons, he's just pure evil. And I'm like, well, I mean, with the first film it seems like pretty selective.
Pretty selective. Yeah, again, they probably expand it for later films, but yeah, this film definitely is like, it's pretty obvious who he's killing and why. The question mark then becomes like, Lori, why? But I think he was stalking her because she walked up to his family's house. You know what I mean? That's the whole reason he was following her in the first place.
No, which I do have to mention something. I think that's a solid point about why he's chasing Lori in the first movie. It's just basically wandered in. He's like, okay, another one and stuff. I do think again, this is thanks to the cinematography, but I think the moment whenever she walks into the house and basically sees the Judith Meyer tombstone on the bed with Annie on there, finds her friends' dead bodies everywhere, and she's like basically freaking out in a corner, and then you just see from the darkness like the white face just slowly appear. I thought that was a really strong moment.
When we were talking about cinematography earlier, I wanted to bring that up, but I couldn't think of how to bring that up without spoiling it. So, but
exactly.
Super strong. They must have been really careful staging that, because it's it's like a ghost. You know, you just see his face a little bit, and then he peers out of the shadows.
And so I feel like again that also just lends credit to the design of Michael, because even though I'm not crazy about it, I do think it's a solid design overall. And so for moments like that and stuff, it definitely is striking beyond belief there. Whenever speaking of Michael killing them, that's one thing I did kind of like is the kills overall, because they felt more grounded and stuff. Right. The only one that really kind of stretches is whenever he killed Bob in the kitchen. He stabs the knife so hard.
Right, he picks him up and then manages to pin his whole body to the wall with a knife. Yeah. But it's neat because up until that point he seems pretty human. The only thing you have against the contrary is the doctor being like, he's no human, he's a monster, or whatever. And that's the first time you get like a sense of him being like otherworldly, I think, to some degree, like eerily, is just his massive strength being able to just like pick up this full-grown dude with one hand and then pin him to the wall with a knife. So, and that's one of the few moments. The other moments, of course, is whenever he continually like dies, quote unquote.
Yes, he gets he gets beat up a little bit once he starts pursuing Lori, you know.
At first, it just seems like he's a bitch. Like, he gets stabbed with a sewing needle, like a knitting needle, and then he just, like, lays down. You know what I mean? And then Jamie Lee Curtis is like, yep, I totally killed him. I'm just going to leave him here and not look at him. And then again, she stabs him once with a knife, and he just falls over and dies. And she's like, well, I definitely did that. Let me just put the knife right next to him again and walk off and cry while looking in the other direction so that he can get up. And then the end is whenever it does seem otherworldly, whenever he gets shot like 6 times and falls out the window, and then the guy looks out and he's not there anymore. So.
No, that was one of my favorite moments watching the movie. Whenever, because she throws down the knife 2 times and stuff, but the second time, whenever she threw it down, you just did the. Like, you did that moment, and I just couldn't help.
And that wasn't like the first terrible plot hole either. And that knife is a magical knife, apparently, because did you notice, and surely people on the internet probably noticed this too, that knife reappears next to the couch.
I saw that.
Yeah. Like she threw it down in the bedroom or whatever. That's the last time we saw the knife. And then there's the whole scene where she sends the kids out. He gets back up. The guy comes into the house, shoots Michael. He falls back down. And then the camera at one point goes back out through the front door, and you can see the knife still there by the couch. Yeah. Does he just have a whole bunch of knives? Is he a knife salesman door to door?
Maybe he stopped by the kitchen before, because, you know, Lori does run upstairs to hide in a closet
How
and
many
stuff.
kitchens have that large of a knife in it? It seems like an iconic knife. There can't be so many copies of it.
You know, they have pieces of ham to come up. You know what I'm saying?
I did use a knife about that size to carve my ham. I had a couple weekends ago.
But no, it definitely. I think that's one of the other things that does personify him a little bit better. It's just the fact he's literally able to take, like, you know, not that it's super fatal, but sewing needle to the neck, hangers to the eye, and then a knife to the chest, and then still get up only to get shot multiple times and fall from a 2nd-story window.
Right.
So, and again, it does. I feel like it is a fairly strong scene, you know, whenever Dr. Loomis does show up, and then Laurie Strode saying, like, was that the boogeyman? And he's like, yes, it was. Again, I feel like there's just so many scenes like that that do stay strong. But again, it's just that anticipation of waiting for those scenes that makes it like, okay, get on with it.
I will say it was funny whenever, because he's just kind of like wandering around looking for this house, because he knows that Michael's somewhere nearby.
Oh, yeah, Dr. Loomis.
Yeah, Dr. Loomis is. And then the kids run out, and they're screaming bloody murder, and the way the camera's shot is that he's like right in front of the house.
Yeah.
And he doesn't think to be like, kids, what's going on? You know, he's just like, I'm just going to walk into this house.
I think he knew at that point, because that was one of the, I forgot, that was one of the moments you lost your mind on while we were watching it together, is, you know, Dr. Loomis is staking out at the Myers house, and he's waiting there for, I assume, an hour or two, and then he just finally notices the car that Michael parked in the street.
Right, like right there, you know what I mean? It's and the only reason that was frustrating is because he was batting 100 up until that point. He's like the world's leading Michael detective, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And of course, as he was his doctor for 15 years or whatever, of course, like, you get why he knows that he's going to be in this town, why he knows he's going to go to this house, and why he knows he's going to probably lift his sister's grave or whatever. But he also has like a supernatural, like, he rolls up to the store where Michael stole everything from to talk to the officer. He somehow finds that like truck on the side of the road with the matches in it, and there's like the dead body around the corner, which he didn't look that far, but you know, he knew that Michael was there, and so he's like 100% in Michael's brain. And then he's just standing outside the house, and there's a car right there on the curb. And he doesn't think to turn and be like, that's the car that Michael stole from me. And, you know, he's sitting there for hours, scaring off kids, getting scared by the sheriff. We go back to him multiple times there, and that's just one of those plot holes that I was like, really? Like,
yeah, like, aren't you catching on?
Yeah, like, that's, you didn't notice that? You noticed everything else.
It's just like he's tripping at the finish line every time.
Yeah.
Like, there was that one scene whenever, you know, Michael had broken into the hardware store and stuff, and Dr. Loomis is just standing there waiting to talk with the sheriff, and then Michael just drives behind his head, and he turns his head.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely moments like that that I never even really just paid that much attention to whenever I did watch it, but just watching, just hearing you just be like, just like audible, just like sighs and stuff. It just cracked me up.
Yeah, there was a lot of inconsistencies, and there's a lot of just corny parts too. You know? What I mean?
For sure. There's a lot of cheese.
Yeah.
Like, I know whenever Laurie Strode was just smiling, staring at the kids trick or treating,
Yeah.
it just gives like a poetic line nobody can hear.
Yeah. There's a lot of that, and a lot of like, just bad dialogue choices that.
Yeah.
And I was interested. It didn't seem like they did multiple takes in a couple places where, like, even Dr. Loomis, like, who's supposed to be like a fairly smooth talking guy, he like trips up a couple times, delivering his lines, and it's not in like a well acted way. You can just tell he's tripping over his lines, and they keep it in.
Yeah.
But
I think Dr. Loomis is best whenever he's angry. Like, whenever he's angry, he's nailing everything. But, yeah, it's definitely interesting because there are some weaker lines of dialogue and stuff, like, especially with Bob and Linda talking about ripping each other's clothes off and then ripping off the little girl's clothes.
Yeah, they're like, we'll rip off Lindsay's clothes, too. I'm like, whoa, why?
Yeah, so it's definitely like a mix between good lines and then lines you're like,
right,
a little bit. So it's like that constant teeter-totter
right,
that goes throughout the film. But yeah, it was one of those things that there's not really a whole lot of endearing characters outside of the three, because again, I didn't care about Annie or Linda. I felt like they were just kind of jerks in general.
Yeah.
And then Bob was the ultimate jerk.
Yeah.
There.
I didn't like Paul that much. I didn't like I liked the kids.
Yeah,
the little girl was funny. She was
Lindsay?
Yeah, Lindsay. Lindsay just liked watching TV. That's all she wanted to do. I was like, I get that. Right on. But the little kid that was worried about the boogeyman.
Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy, that was getting bullied and stuff. Like, I liked him okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there was even, like, an unspoken sort of, like, he was following around Tommy, not just because Tommy, like, walked in front of his house whenever Laurie was there, but because, like, Tommy looks like young Michael. Like, we saw a portrait of young Michael, and then like one of the first characters we see right after that scene is Tommy, and it's like, so he's like kind of looking at this kid that's in the neighborhood right next to the house where he grew up, and it's like he's making that connection. And so he never goes after the kids. Like, there's never any, like, kid murdering, like, threat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, like, because he's after Laura the whole time. But she does a great job of, like, protecting them.
Oh, for sure.
And diverting attention to herself. No. But it doesn't seem like he was ever, like, trying to kill them, you know what I mean? He was, for sure. He was focused on these people that were, like, the initial targets of his initial, like, murder.
Yeah, and so I think, like, again, what you mentioned about Laurie, like, her taking a kiss, it was kind of, like, nice in the fact that whenever it did come to danger, that she was fairly sensible, because she's like, these kids, like, I don't want any of them to get hurt.
Right.
I'm at least going to have them run, because as we've seen, Michael does not run at all whatsoever. He just slowly walks and stuff,
with
which obviously,
purpose.
with purpose. He's striding with purpose there. But I think that's one of the things I do like about Laurie, is just the fact that a lot of people say, like, she's a strong female character and stuff, but I don't really think she's strong necessarily, but I feel like she is a strong survivor and stuff. I think that's the best way to do it, because again, I don't ever feel like, she's like, oh, I'm gonna take Michael on. It's just mostly like, okay, I need to try to survive and also save the kids and stuff.
She acted out the natural, like, flight or fight response really well, which I feel like doesn't always happen with survivors, is they make really dumb decisions that are, like, not even panicked in the moment dumb decisions, but just like you're watching it and you're like, why'd you run into the basement? Like, those sorts of decisions.
Run out into the woods.
Right. But Laurie seemed generally panicked in a terrible situation. She hurt her leg pretty, like, early on.
Oh, yeah.
But she still made, like, and she made bad decisions, but they were like decisions that were like panicked, like running into the closet or whatever.
Exactly.
It's like, that's a dumb decision, Laura. But like, I get why you did it, because you're like, I need to escape, you know.
Yeah.
But then she made those rat backed into a corner responses of jabbing him in the eye with the clothes hanger and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, she made those like realistic choices, and Jamie Lee Curtis acted them out really well in such a way that was like, it was convincing. I think that's what makes her a really strong survivor, is you could see her motivations behind her panic and emotional response.
For sure. I definitely think the third act of the entire film is probably the strongest on an entertainment level. I feel like the first act really is good at setting up the atmosphere, and then the second act is just dedicating to killing. Just straight up killing all the people around there. But one of the other things I did find interesting is the fact that you do see Michael's face and stuff, which is kind of weird in a sense, because you looked at him and he did kind of look a little scared, not like dead in the eyes and stuff.
He was like a scared kid, which is interesting because, of course, beginning of the film is Michael, and he doesn't have his mask, the little clown mask or whatever that the guy had. And at the end of that scene, he puts it on and goes and stands outside with his knife or whatever, and they wheel him off to the loony bin, presumably.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it's him being exposed, and his mask comes off, and he looks like a scared kid again. I think those are sorts of the things that make his character design much more interesting, despite him never having a line of dialogue.
For sure. So that was just one thing that I had never really noticed, especially because we watched it like on a nicer TV, so you could see stuff better. Because I remember watching stuff on the tube TV. Like I said, I recorded this on AMC and stuff, and like if a movie was dark, you could not see hardly at all. You'd have to be in the pitch of night basically to see it. So just the fact that I was able to see his face and stuff, I was able to pick up on some small intricacies and stuff. So again, it's Halloween is one of those films that I will more than likely probably revisit later on and stuff. Like I said, I'm still waiting on the Scream Factory 4K set, which unfortunately didn't arrive in time for our review, but I still wanted to record this episode. So I'll definitely check it out again, but
it's got a great aesthetic.
For sure. I think that's just one of the strongest things about it.
Absolutely.
But no, I'm with you in the fact that I just can't herald it as just one of the greatest horror films of all time. I think it has a great aesthetic, and I do think it is a classic, film to watch. But again, I can't in all goodness be like, oh, this is just one of my favorites, one of the best films I've seen. So it kind of actually comforts me a little bit that you came in even lower than what I did.
And I was excited for
with the rating. And I feel like also just because I think I also went into the movie with the same thing, like the very first time I saw it, because, they're talking about like, oh yeah, Halloween's really great. And then I just watch it and I'm like, it was fine. Yeah. So, was there any other points we needed to hit in the spoiler territory and stuff? Any other final points we wanted to knock out?
I think we nailed most of the things that came up in my brain when we were watching.
Yeah, for sure. Overall, like I said, still a solid film to watch, especially during Halloween and stuff. And I feel like it is a fairly good entry for people that are interested in the horror genre and stuff. In all honesty, I probably say that it's a little less gruesome than Texas Chainsaw Massacre stuff, even though they had about the same amount of blood and stuff. But I think it's just also, just Texas Chainsaw, again, it just dives into that psychological also, as well as just horrific to watch. Whereas this is just very, very, very much suspense.
Yeah. Honestly, I think the first kill was like the most gruesome, quote unquote.
Oh, for sure.
You see it from his point of view, stabbing her, and it's and everything beyond that is more the anticipation until the kill, and then I guess that final scene where he sets them up in the bedroom with the headstone and all that stuff is a little like ooh. But...
which makes me wonder, because again, I know we already touched on this a little bit, but in your opinion, because again, like, do you think he is cognitive of what he is doing, like aware of him taking the tombstone and placing it on the bed? Because I feel like that's just something you do to show off and stuff, and either that or is it possibly like, it just makes me wonder why he would go to that extent. I mean,
I feel like he's recreating the original crime. I'm not like a criminal
Yeah.
psychology expert or anything, but I feel like that's a thing with people that do these sorts of crimes is that they, especially those that are like demented in childhood and move on, like serial killers, is they want to like recreate the original sin, right? The original thing they did. That was wrong, that they got the rush from, or that they felt like they haven't closed that trauma in their life or whatever. And I feel like that's his motivation. How much he's like really thinking, how cerebral he is, it's a wonder. I think for most of the movie I was thinking Michael was like a little bit more cold and calculated, and when his mask is off and you hear him making noises in different situations, I feel like he's a little bit more on the not conscious end of it. But.
For sure. And that is another thing I will say. It was always a tiny bit unnerving to hear just that masked breathing and stuff. So I felt like that was also another solid choice from the sound department. But yeah, I think realistically, whenever it comes to why that was set up the way it was, I think it's just because it looks cool. That's about the only thing I can think from a filmmaker's perspective on why they would do that.
I think he was definitely like staging a scene to like he had his the dead topless woman in there, and he was like, that's just like my sister, and slapped the headstone in there. Was he thinking like when he originally stole the headstone that he was gonna go put it in his bed with this girl? No, I mean he didn't plan that as far out as I could tell, but he was trying to like reinvent that original trauma.
Yeah, because I doubt he was doing that for Laurie specifically and stuff, because again, it doesn't seem like he cares about he is following Laurie, but at the same time, I mean, Laurie's not the first person he goes to. Again, it's just kind of, it is a little more aimless and stuff, but also precise. So again,
I think it's like a little bit like in Psycho, where he sets up those weird scenes in the basement, and in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where they have the chicken bone ornaments.
Yeah.
It's like the killers are constructing something out of their craft or whatever, and Laurie just happened to walk in on it and see the wrong thing.
For sure. But yeah, I'm definitely kind of happy that we were able to dive into this film and stuff, because, again, the only other time I've tried talking about this film is people who really like Halloween a ton, so then it makes it a little harder to try to discuss whenever there is kind of like the opposing views. So it's kind of nice that we have we have the same kind of view and stuff, even though, again, I feel like just the music, aesthetic, shots alone does elevate it quite a bit for me.
Right.
Because if it didn't have good music or good shots or didn't look good, it would definitely go way down for me and stuff.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, same. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm still solid at a 7 out of 10 for me and stuff, and for you 4 out of 10. But I'm happy we got to release this episode on Halloween and stuff, because like I said, I think it is a film you guys should at least watch once in your life. Like, even if you're not the biggest fan, again, just hits that Halloween aesthetic, which is my favorite holiday there. And so I was thinking about the next film, because there's a lot of bullet points you were hitting, which was actually going to be what I was mostly discussing about with this next film we're going to watch for the episode. So I thought it was very funny and stuff, because I know you've had an idea on what films I have thought about watching. But anyways, the film that's going to be next in our line of episodes is going to be a movie that took all of the tropes that you noticed at the beginning, and they're actually the ones that really defined those tropes and stuff. And it's a certain day of the year that happens a couple of times.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, do you know exactly what I'm talking about?
It's the John Cena WWE Spooky Doo Scooby Doo Spectacular. No, it's Friday the 13th.
Yeah, Friday the 13th. Yep. And I had the Jason mask on my face while humming John Cena's theme. So That's something you guys will never see the light of day of.
You'll have to check our YouTube channel for that. Just go to xvideos.com/Michael Cera.
Yeah, I don't know if it's even gonna. I don't think it should see the light of day. No. So we'll let the audio reach the daylight, and then
just imagine it. Just
imagine it. But no, you hit it right on the head and stuff. We're going to be going over to Camp Crystal Lake here whenever we're going to be Poppin the Scary with Friday the 13th. Thank you guys for listening. Catch y'alls later, and have a happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween. Ow.
Spooky sounds.
Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube, Castbox, or iTunes platforms to stay up to date when new episodes drop. To see what Aaron and I are up to, check out our respective Twitter accounts. For me, it is @ColeKirkVA, and for Aaron, it is @AnimalGameDev. Thank you all so much for listening to our podcast. We'll speak to you all again next time when we're Poppin the Scary.